Hey guys, this is Shabam for StocksPoker.com. I play under the name Lacey Duval on Full Tilt Poker. Today I'm going to be playing some small stakes Limit Omaha High-Low Full Ring. This will be the first of a series of Omaha High-Low videos from Full Ring, Short-Handed, and Heads-Up Limit as well as Pot Limit and No Limit. I wanted to do my videos in an order in which beginning and advancing players can gather up all the information in each video. Then you guys grab some vital pieces from each and then compile them together to have a sound expertise in Omaha High-Low in the end. So I have a 5-10 limit game on the left here and a 25-cent, 50-cent game on the right here. Sorry about that. A quick recap for those that are new to the game. You are dealt 4 cards and must use 2 cards from your hand and 3 cards from the board to try to make the best high hand and or the best low hand. That are 5 different cards that are under 8, with the ace acting as a high and low card. And for the low, res rules will apply, so ace, deuce, 3, 4, 5, otherwise known as a wheel, will be the best low hand. Now, Omaha High-Low is increasing in popularity. It's a fun game. It allows one to play many hands, and often with several opponents in it, which creates big pots with usually more than one winner. Now, I folded ace-queen 3 here because you want to play relatively tight in a full ring game. Oops, it doesn't quite show it yet. I'd probably compare the value of ace-3, especially under the gun, to the value of ace-jack in Hold'em. I mean, it can do wonders in late position in 6-max games, but you're not going to be overly excited with it in a full ring game here. The big problem with ace-3 and Omaha High-Low in a full ring game is that there's not a big payoff when you hit a low. Ace-4s and deuce-3s are not going to be giving you tons of action, and even when you hit the low, you can't confidently raise and get value, nor are you too comfortable calling raises. So I'd be looking to fold ace-3 in early position, and definitely if there's a raise or two pre-flop. Now we do have middle pair and a gut shot here. It's not too strong. We're out of position, and I don't really see us getting paid by too many hands if we do hit. Ace-jack is a very likely combo, so we're just going to fold here. Now for those playing poker seriously, Omaha High-Low is a great opportunity, as there's very little learning resources out there for the other players. There's a lot of math actually involved, and the game itself creates a ton of rake. Very nice for those that have rake back accounts and that are collecting points. So it's going to be a little slow for a while. It is full ring, so we're going to be playing very tight, as I said before. We're going to play hands that will hit the flop hard and will hold up against multiple opponents. As you can see, there will probably be at least a few people in the pot, so we really have to have something that's strong. Right now we do have a flush draw. We have no low. There's already a low. If we do hit the flush, there's a chance that we might not even be good, and we'd only be paying for half. So it's an easy fold here. The hands that we do want to be playing are basically anything with ace-deuce, with another ace, the ace being suited, or another low card with it, such as a 3 or 4 for wheel wraps. And the reason why these are the strongest hands are because that there's roughly a 60% chance that there will be a low possible by the river. And having ace-deuce in your hand gives you the best chance to win the low pot. And if you secure the low pot early, it also gives you a better opportunity to win the high pot, as players with a high-only hand would now be playing for at best half the pot, and players with the worst low will be in bad shape. So we're going to complete the small blind here. This does have a lot of high potential. We're not too happy calling the raise, but it'll work. We did flop 2 pair here. There's a lot of draws. Basically any low card that does come on the flop, we're going to fold kings here. I know a lot of people will get carried away with that, but we're going to just get to that in a second. So we do have ace-10 here. We're going to hope for a safe card. That's a relatively safe card. We are probably playing for half now. Our best option is to just check call down, as we do have a lot of showdown value here. Now going back to the king-king 3-5, just with already 3 other players in the pot, I just don't see kings voting very well against that. It's very easy to make 2 pair or better in Omaha high-low. We would have won, but that's beside the point. Even here, it wouldn't have been too great. We do have a 3. 8 would have brought many draws, even though we covered that. But I definitely think this is a fold pre-flop. You want to be hands that you're going to be comfortable with no matter what comes. So you want to play hands that you can get away from easily and not be in a guessing game. And if you do hit a flop that you're going to continue on, you're going to be able to continue all the way. I've been pausing a little bit because it is quite a slow game. We do have ace king jack 8, which is a pretty strong high hand when it is multi-way, but it is not multi-way. Against few players, it's not going to hold up very well. I see a lot of players when they first start out limping these type of hands, and I think it's a big mistake. Like I said, unfortunately we've been hitting flops. But in the long run, you're going to be find yourself in a lot of trouble and not know where you are unless you actually hit pretty hard. The ace-8 is pretty much useless, as it's one of the worst low hands that you could probably start off with. And I mean, the only way that we should be playing this, if there's a lot of players in the pot, we wouldn't be looking at the ace-4 for value. We'd only be looking at the ace-queen suited for value. Now I guess I'll take this time to talk about how my thought process goes during all these hands. Basically I just use game theory. I don't want to sound like Vanessa Rousseau, but other than socializing in networks, it's probably the greatest thing that I took away from university. Simply put, it is determining your best results in the long run by counting your opponent's decisions and goals. From it, I always ask myself on literally every street in my head, if my opponent has this and his goal is to do this, then my best course of action is to do this. And it'll help you break down things, and it makes the game more interesting because now you should be looking more carefully at hands shown down from other opponents and checking to see how they played it, and then using that in the future against them. I mean, maintaining a good habit of doing this helps you create a large memory bank of actual lines taken by opponents. So down the road you can save yourself some bets by narrowing their range down according to their lines and previous history. Or you'll be able to make some nice calls if the line doesn't match up and make sense. Okay, so here we have a pretty strong hand. We have ace-king suited with a deuce and a 3. We're going to raise this, especially on the, I like to say puck because I'm from Canada, but I guess it would be the button. So we're going to raise it up for value. This is a hand that hits the flop pretty hard. Now this is a little interesting. It is a monotone board. It's all flush. Now we have a couple options. We can bet here, hoping that they don't have a flush, and then, or if they do have a flush, they might wait for the turn. Or we can check behind and hide our strength. As a 4 comes, now it's much harder to put us on a deuce 3, and I could see getting calls from like a 5-6 here, as bad as a 5-6 low, and it gives us a much better chance to get value from lesser hands. Again, here we have a monster of a hand. We're going to inflate the pot for value. Going back, he had an ace-jack 3-6. Now he might have been a little scared on this flop, but as soon as we check behind here and a low comes, not many players would expect us to check deuce 3 there, so we get a nice call down from a weak low. Here this hand pretty much plays itself. We do have the nuts. Now if this person raises, I think our best course of action would be just to call to get another call from him. I don't think that he'd be check raising with the lower flush draw there, and we have no low ourselves. So re-raising would only potentially lose this customer, which would mean less money for us. I just also want to make a quick note that from that last hand that we had, the ace-ace deuce 3, that he called the flop with the backdoor flush draw, some straights, and a pair, which isn't too bad, but it shows the looseness that he has. So I actually made a quick note. This one was from before, but it just further solidifies his image as very loose. So we can just add on. I'm going to write very loose and looks for backdoor draws. I think it's very important to keep notes, especially with full tilt, as the avatars are usually the same, so you can't really distinguish a player by a unique avatar. Here we have deuce 5, 6, 7. We have 4 low cards, so there's a very good chance that we can hit a low. We're playing very tight, but deuce 5, 6, 7 is pretty good for hitting straights. We can get away pretty easily if we miss. The deuce 7 isn't really worth much. Here it's capped around. Now I want to say that ace deuce is there, so even if we do hit our cards, it's going to be for half, unless we hit a wheel, maybe ace 3, 4. So I'm just going to let this go here. It makes it really hard, especially in a capped pot, that low cards are going to be out. Mike Matiso had a theory about that. He said if there's lots of pre-flop action, then high cards become more valuable. Here we wouldn't have been able to do anything. We would have hit a pair and a gut shot. We'd be losing to 10 queen if someone had that. So it wouldn't really be worth chasing. So he had ace deuce 7. Our low would have been no good had we hit. Our hearts would have been covered. Even if we hit some of the straights, there's a 7-8 out there. So I'm pretty happy with a call for 1 bet and a fold for 2 more. Here we have a decent high hand where if it hits, it'll hold the majority of the time. We're going to hope to get in cheap. If there is a raise and not a lot of other players calling, then we're just going to let it go. Like I said before, 60% of the time there'll be low on board. So we want to avoid hands that don't have a low in them. Here we would have flopped a set and gut shot straight draw, but we're not going to be results oriented. Here we do have a open-end straight draw. A 7 would give us the nuts, not spade. A queen would make it possible for Jack King. They're going to give us a free look. Here we're just going to lead out. We're going to charge them for low. I can see them calling with the low. I don't really think a check raise is in order because he has to have pretty much exactly a straight to bet there. So he just called, and I think it's also a mistake there. You're only going to hit a low roughly 30% of the time. Basically, his call was to, basically he has to hit, and then he'd get his money back pretty much once the rate comes in. So even in his spot where any low basically gives him the nut low, I think it's a fold because you're only protecting back half. There was no raises pre-flop, so basically whatever money he put in, he'd be trying to protect. So in those spots where there's nothing in the pot, you have absolutely no chance for a low. It's pretty much a fold every time. Now a lot of people will get caught up in playing these type of hands. Ace 5, 6, 7, and I think you have to hit pretty hard for it to have any value. Ace 5 is not that great of a low, especially in a full ring game. So basically you want to hit a straight or a flush, and that would only be the high part, so again you'd pretty much only be playing for high. Here, late position, we raise with aces and jacks. Here we're going to cont bet. I pretty much hate every card. So if he raised on the flop, I probably would have just let it go. Here we're just going to hope for a quick showdown, or sorry, cheap showdown. If he bets, we're going to have to let it go. In fact, I'm not too keen on betting the flop. I think we might even be able to just check fold there. Only because no matter what they're holding, their calling range pre-flop, pretty much anything they have is at least a coin flip against our hand or better. So I don't really see the point of getting too excited with aces there. And usually with aces, especially in early position, I'd just dump it. I think the biggest problem with aces, especially with no low, is well, people know the strength that ace-ace carries over anyone's starting hand, even in Omaha games. It's just so hard to play, especially multi-way. If you can get heads up, great, but even then it's still a pretty big guessing game. There's not too many safe flops that can come out. Even if you hit an ace for top set, that's already at least one low card on the board, and every card that doesn't complete a full house will be scary, as it'll open up opportunities for straights and flushes. Here we do have a small wrap. I'm going to peel one, not going to be too gung-ho with it, as there's definitely chance for a low draw. Here we're going to raise it. We don't really want another heart to come. We don't want a small flush to carry on. It puts them in a high spot if they don't have a good low, as they don't want to be chasing for half. Okay, now this is an interesting spot. I think it's pretty safe to say that this person has the net low and he's trying. The only thing that we're worried about is higher straights or a flush completing, but I think there's enough safeguards in the deck to make a value raise there. So he leads out again. We still have the nuts, but now our goal is to try and get bets from these other players. It is possible that he might have a low and the same straight. The only problem is I don't think that anyone can fold if they do have a lower straight with just the 7. Even 3-4 is going to be pretty tempted to call, so we're going to raise it up here and hope for a few callers that can't get away. Now that he raises, we're just going to flat. So we did end up getting half. They ended up chopping. There was a flush draw out there with the low, so that was a little dangerous. The only thing, I probably would have just called the 3-bet had there only been 3 players, but with that 4th player we get an extra bet in there. Makes it a little safer for us. Here we do have a flush draw. Again, there's only about 5 bets minus rake in there. We could easily be dominated by a higher flush draw. Deuce 4 is an okay backdoor low. We're just still going to check. We're going to play this one safe. I just don't see much potential. We could get bets from lower, but we'll play it safe. If it does come with a low, we can get a little safer. The problem with betting is that, on the turn, betting here is fine as we do have the nut low, and it is quite hidden, so we might get paid off by 2 pair. But the problem with betting out on the turn is we're basically saying we have a flush. So 2 pairs are going to get scared and they're not going to give us action. Straight draws that are out there, if they do complete on the river, won't be able to pay us off if we push them out on the flop. So on the turn. So I definitely think a check is the best, because we have to take into consideration what our opponents have. Our goal is to get paid, but we also want to limit also want to limit the amount of bets that go in if we are behind. So here we have an ace deuce with a suited ace. Definitely raise that up for value. We're in position and we can take control of here. It is now heads up. We have the nut low. We're just going to bet it. In Omaha high low, there's no real, I'm not going to say there's no real, but there's seldomly any spots where you should be slow playing when it's heads up. Here we're going to bet. I highly doubt that he has the same nut low, so it's always good to throw in a bet. Maybe he has a flush draw with a pair that we can fold out. So definitely keep ramming. Even though we have a pair of 4s as our high, we want to take full control of fold equity there. Now this is also a hand that has pretty good high potential. Again, high cards are only really good multi-way. Without any other players, it becomes a garbage hand. We're going to be scared of most flops that have a low on it. Again, we flopped a pretty strong hand, but in the long run, it's pretty much a fold every time. Now, even during this downtime, it's important to always be watching the other players. You want to be watching what they're check calling, what they're betting, when they're check raising, and how bad their low is when they're chasing down. If they're only chasing half pot, those are good things to take into consideration. Here we have a pretty strong hand. Here we have ace deuce. Our low got counterfeited. I just don't see him folding to any bet, and I don't see too many cards that will help us on the turn, so we're just going to check fold here. Here we're in the big blind. If it was raised for one more bet, I'd say it's a pretty clear fold. I know a lot of players have difficulty giving up, seeing how it's only one more bet to you. But again, you want to keep with the concept that you want to play hands only that will hit the flop hard. And there's many hands that you're dealt in the big blind that may look attractive, but once the flop comes down, you're not going to know where you are. You're not going to be able to get full value in that sense, and you're going to be playing scared, and you never want to be playing scared when playing poker. Now when you see stuff like that, you should definitely make notes. These are the things that I was talking about earlier, where you want to take that into consideration for future streets and future hands. So if he's in a hand, if he has something like queen on here, or if we miss, we can definitely push the low side and push him out. Also know that he will probably not fold to high, so if we were to try and isolate during a later stage of the hand, it would be rather hard. Okay, so we're in the big blind, and we finally get a hand that we can actually play, as we got a free look here. Unfortunately, the flop comes nothing that can really allow us to continue on. We might have the best hand with jacks here, but again, there's not many river cards that'll make us too happy. Like in 8, now 4, 5, 5, 9, 9, 10 beats us. We're just going to hope for a free showdown and hope that our jacks are good, which it is. Now I think when you limp ace 3, 4 and you get to this point where you're at the flop, you need to bet this flop. You want to force out hands like jacks. It's going to be really, really hard for hands that even include a queen to continue on that aren't two pair, because they're going to be afraid of whatever comes next. And like I said, 60% of the time, even more so with an extra card, so that you don't get counterfeited, a low is going to come. Here we do have a small wrap. We have a 6, 7, 8 that will complete. Here's a blind on blind. We have position. Ace Queen goes pretty well. Hits a lot of hands. We're going to value bet here. We might get called by jacks, tens, even a 9, something curious. I don't really see us being beat by any full house combination. Here I'm going to raise another blind on blind battle. Ace 3, 4, 6 is very strong, as it'll hit many flops. Here we have two pair and a really strong low draw. Okay, so here we have ace deuce 3, 4, very strong hand, especially with, we're going to, I think it's a better hand multi-way than it is if we thinned the field, so my choice is to limp. We want to get as many players in this pot as possible. Had we had something like ace king deuce 4, I might be more inclined to raise it to try and thin the field and use ace king for value. So here we flopped a nut low and we have a straight. Now our goal is to try and maximize this. Now I limped and he still raised. We got to put him on a low hand, but he is smart enough from what I've seen from his previous play that he might know that I am limping ace deuce and might check it behind. Here I don't think that he's going to fire again. I'm going to bet. Now this kind of works out because now it is less likely that I have a straight and might get called by two pair, maybe even an ace looking to grab another low card to complete a low. Unfortunately they folded, but that's the game. Here we have ace 10, 6, 6 on a blind on blind. It's not too strong, but it definitely has some showdown value, and can hit a couple flops. Here we have a gut shot and a pair of sixes, but we're out of position, and just the amount of things that he can have makes this really hard, as he can raise as little as 9, 10, and even with 9, 10 it'll be close in equity on both. He checked behind this flop. If he had anything, I think that a bet is in order, just because there's so many straight draws, so many flush draws. He checked behind, makes it really unlikely that he has something, so we lead out and steal there. Here we have ace 3, 6, 7. And we flop a nut flush draw. Now with the flush draw, we actually have to hit. So I really don't want to bet and force people out. We do have a pretty good backdoor low draw as well, and I just don't see him folding any two pair type combinations Check raises, I think, are out of line because of that. An ace comes and he leads. So right now he's saying that he has 10 king, which is a valid line, seeing that he check called, especially with 2 hearts there. We're still looking for a heart, and then we'll reevaluate if a low does come. So a low did come. Now I'm going to lead here. I don't really think that he can bet if I check to him with 2 other people in it. So I'm pretty sure he has 10 king. He actually had 10 king with the hearts. So I'm pretty happy with the way that hand went. Here we have ace 3, 7, 7 in late position with the puck. Now 7s don't really have a lot of high value, but with this little players in the field with position, I definitely think it is a call. Here we have 2 blockers. Getting into the more advanced stuff, it's really unlikely that he has a straight because of this reason, and we have position. There's a lot of cards that he won't like. I think that my ace 3 is probably good if we hit. 7s have some value, not a lot. The reason for the raise pre-flop is so that we can get a free card if we choose to. Now, having 7s, we might be able to bet, and there's pretty much no way that he can raise. But for now, I'm just going to keep the pot small and check. Now, a 6 does come, and this puts us in a tight spot. I definitely think if we bet, we only get called by better hands, and if they have a worse hand, then our 7s are probably good. We're not going to fold out any better hands, sorry, is what I'm trying to say. So our 7s might be good, and we try and just take it down. Here we have the best position. We're on the puck. No one else is entering the pot. Ace Queen is pretty good. Ace 5 does pretty well in a 3-way pot, and they fold. Here, same thing. We're in late position. Ace Queen does fairly well, same as Ace 3. And he folds, and we get a couple folds. Now I wanted to go back to that nut low where we flopped a straight. I believe it was Ace Deuce 4. Ace Deuce 3, 4. Right here. Now with these type of boards, with most players, especially in raised pre-flop pots, whoops, kind of disappeared on me. Usually in raised pre-flop pots, they're going to have small cards. Now 3, 5, 6 presents a lot of straight opportunities. Now we don't want 7, 8 to get there. We don't want 4s or 2s to come, so we're sharing. So if he did bet, which in most cases he should, then I think the best option on this flop is to check raise and get full value for our hand. I don't think a check raise on the turn will work because he's a pretty smart player and he might check, fearing that he might be getting quartered. Here we have a ace deuce. There's not a lot of high potential, but I think it's definitely worth the limp. Jack 9, 3, 6. We have nothing, and we're just going to fold here. But getting back to that hand history, if we have 2 pair here, again, if he calls, there's like a million cards on the river that we really don't like, so we're just going to fold here. Here we got counterfeited with a deuce. There's no real high potential, we're just going to fold here. So going back to this hand, we want to jam, and we want to mix what we do with our lines as well. If we had an ace, deuce, 7, 8, we'd be doing the same thing. So players might get stubborn and start calling down with what may be two pair. They might have ace, 3, 5, ace, 5, 6, and we definitely don't want a straight completed. So we definitely want to try and get every single bet in there as possible. As well as we don't want another flush card to come out and it go runner, runner, flush draw, and we end up with half, whereas if he has ace, deuce, we have him crushed. I'm sorry, that should be, we have his range crushed. We can't really say that he couldn't have 4, 7 there. So in those spots, if you think the other player has ace, deuce, and your ace, deuce is pretty strong, I think you should be jamming in as much as possible. Not even worried about the third player. You just want to charge him as much bets if he does want to come along for the ride. Here we checked. I didn't really want to scare out hands, and if a club did come, players would feel a little more comfortable about having a flush without a higher flush being out there. We're getting about 4 to 1. It is high. I think that we might be able to pull off a bet if we get it, so I'm down for calling here. We did hit a club. I think I'm going to bet out here an ace, jack. Any straight cards are very likely to call. Definitely smaller flushes. Sometimes at these levels, a player with a lower flush might even raise. So we'll see what happens here. So we do have position. Ace, queen is very good. A lot of suited possibilities, straight possibilities, and ace, 5 is pretty good against 2 random hands. So I definitely think there's a raise there. Okay, now I have ace, deuce, 4, 5 with the ace, deuce suited here. It doesn't have a great high potential when it's shortened. So I want to invite as many people in the pot as possible, so I'm going to limp here. This is a hand that does really well multi-way, and I just want everyone in there as possible. Flop comes deuce, 6, 6 with 2 diamonds. Now there is a chance, a good chance, that our ace, 4 is good, especially that it was checked behind. We did pick up a flush draw, and our 5s might be good, but probably not. I really don't see anyone checking ace, 3. There is a chance that our 5s are good. He might be doing this with a lesser ace, 4, maybe even 3, 4, which is a straight, in which case we have a pretty good free roll. So I'm going to raise here. We do have the nut low and now a high straight. So this is an easy bet. So he did have 3, 4, which is a lower straight, and we were free rolling. Sorry, not to say free rolling, as an ace would have been too great, but we definitely had the better equity as any club or a 3 comes down. It helps us that we thinned the field, as these 2 players might have had a 4, so if we kept them in the pot, we can't really count the 3 as a great card, whereas if we were heads up, then it's an amazing card. Here we have ace, king, deuce, which is a pretty strong hand, especially heads up against an under-the-gun limper. We do want to hide our value a little bit, so we're going to check here. Here we're out of position. Again, there's many combinations. He checked on this board, and it does show a 4 straight. I think my 3, 4 is really good. and we have a pair, but I'm really trying to use this as fold equity, knowing that my low is good. Here, like I said, there's many combinations that he could have, and some which we do beat, but not by a lot. Add to the fact that we're out of position, so it's an easy fold. Plus there's no low, so we can't go runner back low. Easy fold. I like to just give up on most pots where they have a wide range and you're out of position. I don't think the hassle of playing pots out of position is really worth it, because it just becomes a guessing game. Even if you hit, say, a jack here, can we really feel comfortable with check raising? And if he 3-bets, what's our plan next? If we hit an ace or a king, is it good? Can we really bet it? We're going to be scared the whole way, so easy fold there. Now I've been folding for what is probably the last 30 or 40 minutes or so, trying to find a couple hands that's video worthy, but I'm completely fine with it. I think that patience truly pays off in this game when it's full ring. There's enough dead money, especially in the lower limits, with people being less educated about the game and having little patience, that you don't have to make fancy plays. You can sit back, be solid, and reap the benefits. At least in full ring anyways. I'm going to be doing some videos that cover shorthanded and heads up, which will be my next video. You want to make sure that you check that one out. And in those games, the sky's the limit when it comes to creativeness. But for full ring, it's all about being solid. It's a great place to start and learn the fundamentals. It's also a great place to plug leaks. Even if you just watch and observe other players and find out what they're doing wrong, it'll help your game tremendously. And back to folding we go. Now, sometimes beginners like to get a little carried away. They cross over from Hold'em, and on hands like this where it's 10-10-5, and we have a pair that beats the board, people tend to call at least one, and I think it's a huge mistake, just for the fact that it's Omaha. You get 4 cards, so even if you are winning, which is not the case all the time, there's a fair chance that there's a higher pocket pair or a 10 out there. Pretty much every card can hit them. It's not unlikely for someone to have Jack Queen along with their hand and hit a Jack or Queen. 2 overs is 25% to hit. So really, you just want to be careful. Again, you're going to be in a guessing game, even if you're in position. So you really want to get out and just let those go. I think it was folded around, so we got there. This is an interesting spot. We were in the big blind, got a free look, and we hit the small straight. Ace would be an amazing card. We could be free rolled by an ace deuce or ace 5 with a flush draw, higher straight draws. We're going to play it a little safe. We're going to see what happens action-wise on this. There's a bet and a pretty quick call. I'm a little unsure about this one. It is full ring. I think that the chances that our low is good is remotely low. Now we just have to figure if our high is good. Even if it is good, I think there's many cards that will hurt us and hand it over, and some where we might end up chopping. So right now we're playing for half, if we decide to go for the half, but there's just a lot of flush draws, so I'm going to make a fold there. So we would have got scooped by an ace-5 and a flush draw there. I think it's important to evaluate how good your hand is in strength, but also how well it can hold up. And in this case, on a 3-4-6 board, it just doesn't really look all that well. I mean, if the turn was a 9 of spades, it would be a great card and we can continue on, although we'd still have to dodge many cards to be confident about our hand. An ace, I'd be a little more inclined to call down if it was 6 max, but just the fact that it's full ring with people getting involved with better low hands makes the decision that we're playing for half only unless we hit an ace, which is very unlikely, especially with ace being one of the key cards in Omaha high-low. So I like finding out where we are. We are going to fold this here. I just wanted to get back to this hand. Sorry. I think that it's best to spend the money in early streets before the bets double to gain some information on where you're at. I bet he raised and he cold called 2, so he might have a flush draw, which is very feasible in that scenario, and it's very feasible that he has a pretty strong low, which tells us that we should be really, really scared, and alarms should go off when a flush hits. So by spending that extra 5 instead of just check calling, I think it saves us an extra 20 from calling down all the way to the river. Here we have a very, very strong hand, ace, ace, deuce, 5. The only thing is that it doesn't really hold up that well multi-way, just because we don't have any suits, and aces is only one pair. This is a hand that you really want to get heads up and limit the field with. Okay, so we did get a call. Board comes ace 10 queen. We want to bet. We don't want hands like 10 jack calling. And if they do want to call, we want to charge them full price. We're going to bet again. We have top set. If he does raise, we have only one choice but to call, but we do have a backup low, so that is great. The only thing that I see us losing to is 7-8 or possibly jack 8, but those are really unlikely combos from the way he played it, I think. Here we have ace 4, 5, 8. We're going to raise it just because we're in late position and we probably have the puck. Plus it's a thinking player and we've been showing down pretty good hands. He decides to call. Now this is a pretty tricky spot. I think we should bet. We do have 1 to the low and a pair, but with the power position we get to check behind if wanting. We're going to represent the queen, and we would have the best hand. It's going to be kind of hard for him to call with the 10. He does, however, and we're going to give up. Our best hopes is that he missed a flush draw that's lower. He'd have to have like a flush draw or 5s for us to make a bet that would be a bluff. He ended up backing into a king with a gut shot from ace high, but he did pick up a flush draw on the turn. Had he not picked up the flush draw, I'm pretty confident that he'd fold in that spot. Now on the that last hand, I made a note that we did have one low, and it's actually often that the low will be completed by the river. It's not too often, but it is around 15%, and it can get up to about 25% if you have 3 or 4 low cards in your hand, so that you don't get counterfeited. So you get about roughly 5.5 to 1 to continue on, but since we have position, it's a great bet, I think. Not only that, but it's a drawy board, and even if he had a 2-pair or a strong pair, even ace-queen, it's just really hard to check raise, again, because he's a thinking player, and there's just so many cards, especially on this flop, that will look dangerous, and you don't want to be stuck in that position where you're out of position and don't know exactly where you are, and you don't have much information as to what the person in position does have. So I definitely think that is a great bet on this board against a thinking player. Against someone that we might have made a note against before, where they, like for example, the person that called down with just overpairs, I think that we should just give up, take the free card, and reevaluate once the turn comes. Here we have ace-queen, queen-deuce is suited. I'd like to shorten it. It does well against other ace-deuce hands. The table has been a little tighter than what it was earlier, so I definitely like a raise more than a limp there. I think I'm going to play one more rotation of both. I think it'll go around in time. This one's a little tight, more folds, so it will probably move a lot quicker than this one. And I'll wrap it up. Hopefully we can get a few interesting scenarios in that time. Here we have a middle pair and not really a low, and a mediocre flush draw. Again, there's not many cards that we do like, and again, there could easily be a higher flush draw here. Here we have ace deuce deuce 4. Not it doesn't really go well against a small field. We basically do have to hit to win, so we want as many people in there as possible, and I think limping best achieves that. So he checks here, 7, 8, 9, 2 to a low. There's 60% chance that we do hit. The only problem I see of maybe raising here is that he could have flopped a straight and we get 3-bet, and that's just something we don't want to see. Now my other concern is that he does have the straight, and we now have no chance at the high. The only real chance I could see is maybe if it goes deuce and then pairs the board, because this is really strong. I don't really see us hitting anything. So it's 25 cents. If we do win half, we'd get 30 cents back, so it's a clear fold. I think many players make the mistake that because they have a nut low, especially with one that counterfeits, that they have to see it throughout. And I don't really think that's the best case. Here we have two big monsters. We definitely want to get as much money in pre-flop, as they do very well multi-way, mostly because the ace is suited. This is a pretty, I want to say it's a meh kind of flop. It's not great, it's not bad. 10 Jack Queen, there's big chance that we're well behind now. We do have 2 aces, so it makes Ace King a little less unlikely. Queen 10 4 5, I'm going to fold it because there's just so much trouble you can get in. I think it's a case of reverse implied odds. Here we do have a flush draw, the nut flush draw. There are a couple cards that will scare him into giving us a free showdown. We were getting what seemed to be 5 to 1. I'm not sure. Here he bets, although we do have aces as blocker. It's just so easy for him to have a straight. We do not have a straight. This is Omaha. We can't add these together. Just take this so it's a clear fold. Here, I definitely don't think it's worth a raise, but I'm okay with limping on the puck. Ace-5 suited does pretty well. Same with the Queen-King if we do hit a high flop. Now our hand is pretty suspect. We only have an Ace-5 low with limpers. No real chance at the high. We're just going to check. Maybe if the action is a little weak here, then we can do something, but I really think that we're just done with the hand. Okay, so we have a Ace-Deuce 4-10 here. It doesn't do well multi-way, so again we'll just try and invite as much people into the pot as possible. I'm just going to be closing up here. Here, same type of deal. We're going to be sitting out next hand. I really hope this session opened up your eyes a little bit about different ways to play Omaha high-low, the importance of thinking ahead, like chess. You always want to be one step ahead. Here I bet because, again, I can get King-Queen to fold maybe, and again, it's just so likely that we'll hit nut low by the end. Now here we have 3-4-7. Here I'm going to check call. We don't really have any chance for a high, and I don't really see any fold equity. So just in case that he does have Ace-Deuce or Deuce-3 and we get counterfeited, we're going to save bets by check calling here. Here I'm going to check. I really think that he has a King-7 type hand. Again, I don't really think I have any chance at a high. I'm just going to call and get the bet. There's a good chance that he might have Ace-Deuce. He might have 5-6, in which case we might get two bets from both. But if we call and he does have a set, he might raise and then we can just comfortably call behind. He did have Ace-Deuce, so we end up chopping it, and he did have a full house, so there was pretty much no way that we would get him out. So we're going to cut our losses and just call there. Here again would have just been a check call. Other than a 3, I don't really see any chance of scooping the high. Maybe a 5 in a long shot, but at that point we have to put our opponents on a range. We just can't give them a random high hand and then hope our low is the best to gain value. Like you said, he was aware that I had Ace-Deuce, but the thing is, it wouldn't have mattered anyways. He checks, I check, he's going to bet no matter what because he has a full house, and then we both call. So I don't really see that much of a problem, unless he did raise, and that'd be pretty bad. I think he should have checked the river undoubtedly, because he doesn't really want me to be scared of Ace-5, because I don't want to call and then him raise and then be stuck. I'm only going to get one bet in. No matter what, if I have Ace-5, but if I have Ace-Deuce, which is the same as him, he has no chance to set a low, then we both lose two bets. So I definitely think in his position, a check is good. So yeah, like I said before, I really hope that you guys pick something up. Next video is going to be a heads up. I'm going to be doing it at the 15:30 state. I'm going to be practicing solid gameplay, teach you about the importance of position, and then we'll go from there and go into 6max, go into isolation. So each video of mine, you pick up a certain set of skill sets that I believe that are important to having an all-around game in Omaha. And by the end, we can just put it all together and be really sound players. So I'm just going to show you a little bit of my history. This is the last little while. It's not my full history of Omaha high-low play. Again, for a limit, I would expect probably between 1 to 3 big bets per 100, especially with limit. And again, it's all through taking your time and breaking down street by street, always thinking ahead. I'm just going to fire up today, see how we did with this little session. Just ignore the 15:30 as I was playing a little earlier today. So just by playing solid, we got in 185 hands at 510, 106 hands at 25 cent, 50 cent limit. And again, this is really inflated. It's over the long run, it's going to be nowhere near that. But just by playing solid, we didn't really have to use our brains all that much. Playing became so much easier. And once you get in a habit of keeping that up, it's going to be somewhat automatic. And you're not going to have problems. You're not going to be stuck. And you're going to gain more confidence, you're going to get good energy, and you're going to run good and play good. So I hope you enjoyed my first video. This is Shabam Bam for Stocks Poker. I'll see you guys later.